StraightallDay.com.
Actually the winner for both our evaluation and humorous contests, and coincidentally happens to be the first speaker coming up. So I'd like to bring Dre Baldwin from Wyoming Toastmasters. His speech is entitled Sweetest.
I'll take you all back to my freshman year of college, Penn State University. One of my main concerns coming to school, being a student athlete, was balancing academic work with the athletic grades. So I decided for my first semester that I would take the minimum number of classes to remain a full-time student, which was also an eligibility requirement to play sports. At 12 credit hours, 3 credits per class, that's 4 classes. So I decided to sign up for some easy A, quote-unquote, classes. Creative writing, freshman 101, introduction to music. Last class I signed up for was a class called Human Sexuality and Its Modern Adaptations. This class was taught by a professor by the name of Dr. Frank Smiley, who preferred to be called by his first name, Dr. Frank. The thing I loved about Dr. Frank is that he had a very seen-it-all, matter-of-fact approach to answering questions and to teaching. He loved the topics he taught. He was very open to discussion. He always told us, anytime during class if you have a question, raise your hand, I'll acknowledge you, ask your question, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities. We got into the coursework. We started on the human reproductive system. We moved on to puberty, the first feelings of sexuality in young men and young women. Third topic we got into is the modern adaptations of sex, and how human beings are one of the few species who use sex not only for reproductive processes, but for pleasure. Now, on the basketball side of things, our coach had gathered the team up at the beginning of the semester and told us, I have a copy of each one of your class schedules. So during the school day, we're going to be walking around campus and checking on those classes. Me and the other coaches are going to be checking for 2 things. Number 1, you better be in there. And number 2, I want you sitting in the first 3 rows of every class you take. Coach had this thing about sitting in the first 3 rows means you're more serious, you're more disciplined, and I guess he wanted to go against the stereotype of athletes not caring about school. I didn't agree with that, but I did agree he controlled my playing time, so there I was. One particular Friday, I'm sitting in my front row seat, Dr. Frank's 150-seat lecture hall, and as Dr. Frank's teaching, of course, he's interrupted by a question. Me, I didn't know anyone else in that particular class, so while I'm sitting in the front and I hear questions behind me, I would never even look to acknowledge the person asking the question. I would just listen for their question. Then I would watch Dr. Frank give his answer. It was almost like a game show because he always had an answer. No matter how off the wall the question, no matter how ridiculous the question, no matter how stupid the question, Dr. Frank always had an answer. This particular Friday afternoon, the question was asked. I didn't turn around, but I could hear it was a female voice. She had a strong sense of concern when she said, Dr. Frank, you said that the male semen has a high concentration of sugar. Dr. Frank, in his matter-of-fact way, said, that's correct. She continued, well then, why doesn't it taste sweet? At this point, myself, everyone else in the room, turned around to see who it was who was asking this question. Now understand that there's about a 2-second gap for this girl between noticing everyone looking at her and her realizing what her question had implied. At that point, she turned bright red, gathered her things, scampered out of the lecture hall, never to be seen in that class. Dr. Frank, true to his word, as the door slammed shut behind her, answered her question. That's because your taste buds are on the sides and the tip of your tongue, not at the back of your throat.
Thank you, Troy. I'm actually not going to make any comments out of that.